Hello there, friends and listeners. You have entered the chat with Colette and Matt. I am your co-host, Matt Silverman, here with my other co-host, Colette Bennett. How you doing?
I am excellent. How about yourself?
I am pretty good. We are here to talk about the single most important topic. This is a topic that I'm not a statistician. Okay. But 4 out of 5 historians agree that this is the most important topic ever in human history, civilization. Now, look, there's going to be that one who's like, well, World War II, the Russian Revolution. And well, what about Genghis Khan? And to him or her, I say, no. Majority rules. We are talking about video games. 4 out of 5 historians agree that this is the most important topic. And honestly, Colette, I don't think enough people are talking about this on the internet. I think it's an underrepresented topic.
Yeah, we really need to raise our voices, man. We need to get some people into this movement about video games. Not only the most important topic on earth, but by far more fun than talking about World War II or who is currently the president or anything that Republicans do ever.
Here's what's fun. You make a video game about World War II, play the video game, talk about the game, not about the actual war. Kill 2 birds. Right?
Am I right?
Am I right?
Yes, I must agree. I do look forward to our weekly chat about video games.
And I got to say, big news here. The reviews are in, and let me tell you, they are good. This show that we are currently hosting,
oh my God, I'm cracking up,
has a 5-star review, 5 out of 5 on Apple Podcasts alone. Who can say what's going on other podcast platforms?
I have to admit, I should have gone and looked at the reviews, but I hadn't. I only interacted with a few of our listeners on Twitter. And so when you posted this in our script, I was like, what? This is amazing. And also, I'm an Android user, so I just couldn't pull it up on my Apple phone and look it up easily. So I was like, oh man, this is so cool. So, I mean, I know we already said it on Twitter, but thank you, listeners. This is beyond complimentary and freaking heartwarming to me. And today I actually talked to a longtime internet friend as well. And they were just delighted to see that a podcast was going on and just were, oh my gosh, so warm and sweet about it. And it really did make my whole day. So Docky, nice. If you're listening, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Excuse me. If you are listening to us on a podcast platform that has a rating system, maybe that's just a star system, or maybe that's you can leave a little written review. Doing that, if you have the time or will, is so valuable to a show like this, because we're just getting started and we're looking forward to having this conversation with more and more folks. So just quickly, a couple of the reviews. This one from Bazooey. Great show.
Great name.
Great name. Great show. The 2 hosts have great chemistry, and you can tell that they love what they do. They bring positive energy, and that is very refreshing. Can't wait for more.
Aww.
Thank you, Bazooey.
I love that.
Alex Bebop. Great podcast with fun hosts and topics. I've been a long-time fan of Colette ever since she was on Retroforce Go back in the day, so it's great to have her on a podcast again. Hear, hear. That was me interjecting that. This is my first time hearing Matt, but he is fantastic too. Thank you, Alex. Their rapport is amazing, and the topics were interesting and unique compared to other gaming podcasts. That is, yeah, I agree. That is, we're thrilled about that bit of feedback. Thank you, Alex Bebop. And one last review from Small Thing. Great gaming podcast and a lot of fun. I felt really pulled into their discussion, and they talked about a wide range of games and topics, not just the top AAA titles of the moment.
That was maybe the most interesting note to me, is that was mentioned, because is that a super popular gaming podcast thing for people to talk about the new AAA of the moment? Because I don't listen to enough gaming podcasts to know.
I listen to a variety, and it depends what you're listening to. I think there are
Makes
some
sense.
bigger outlets that that feel just like gaming sites. Like you're seeing reviews and coverage. It's like we have an obligation to tell you if this $60 or $70 AAA mega game is good or bad. Like that they do take that obligation seriously, but then at least the ones I listen to do take the time to then get in the weeds and talk about, hey, here's something wacky, hidden gem, whatever.
That's fair.
Because you got to check it out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that, like, on one hand, you know, if you're a gamer that keeps up with AAA, I totally don't. But like, if you are, that, you know, you do want to hear that stuff, as well as perhaps like other threads of conversation about, you know, indie games, about, you know, whatever, like anything in between, basically.
I love me a good AAA game when it's like amazing. This is not a controversial statement, but like a big budget game that like sticks the landing and just like is so big and fun and awesome and beautiful and runs great, like that. Yeah, that's just so great. But the rest of the time, I like we were talking about, I want to see what's in early access. I want to be part of a cool up and coming whatever and see it grow.
Totally. And I do too. So I think hopefully that means that things that we will talk about on the show will often, I hope, be things that people are like, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to go check it out. And speaking of people reviewing the show, I did want to quickly interject that some of these people were potentially bribed on Twitter, because I said that if they wanted to leave reviews of the show, that I would send them memes. So just to let you know, if you're listening and you want to review the show, I will also send you memes. So you should definitely find me on Twitter at Colette Bennett, and just expect that memes will come to you.
Right. And just to be clear, you when you say send them memes, you are printing them out, putting them, getting an address, and then
in
mailing.
The mail, and then I'm hand lettering the envelope so it is a thing of beauty when they receive it. And it will have a special stamp and special stickers. I do not send plain mail ever. Plain mail is an aberration.
No. Well, because like you're going to the trouble of sending mail.
Dude, my packages are joy. Like, I'm just going to leave it at that. Like, I will never send you a package that is not like got like drawings on it and happy tape, and like you open it up and I've like hand lettered something. Like, to me, that is all about what like sending mail is about. It's like the polar opposite of getting a bill.
Yeah. You need like a box, a crate subscription. So like, okay, here we go. Ready? Write it down. Colette crate. Right?
Cocoa crate.
Cocoa
crate.
Okay, look, we're not going to make any money from this podcast, I'm sorry to say. But the merch.
Cocoa crate. Oh, Cocoa man. Crate. What would Cocoa crate have in it? Well, Cocoa crate would contain, every Cocoa crate would contain a curated tea, because I'm a tea freak. It would have to have a cat item in it, because I love cats. It would
let me wait. I have to ask. I got to stop you right there. Are we talking herbal, caffeine free, like relaxing tea? Or are we talking like get up and go black tea, caffeine monster tea?
I think we would vary it, because I drink everything from white to green to black to, like picked in the mountains of China. Like, I would want everyone to have a different tea, because actually I did do a tea subscription box once, and it was like a delight. I loved it. Every month they sent you 5 different teas to try.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, you have 30 days coming up. You'll probably drink 5 cups of tea in 30 days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it was very reasonable. It wasn't very expensive at all. And I just really enjoyed that, because I like discovering new tea.
Especially if it's like, hey, look, I cannot get this particular thing in the supermarket. So it is special. It is
none
unique.
of it's from the supermarket. That's the nice thing, because, speaking of people, doing indie stuff, there are just dozens and dozens of like tea makers doing it at home, like probably per city, per state. I don't even know, but like I cannot tell you how many times I've met tea makers online. They're just making their own small batches. I follow like big groups of tea makers on Instagram. Like it's a thing.
So there's a culture here. There's an online community culture. See, I mean, and like, of course there is, but like, dude, Now
And
I
then
gotta
there's
check
a
it out.
culture within the culture that's called Gongfu tea, which is is Chinese only tea. It's a super like snobby culture, which if any Gongfu listeners are listening, I'm sorry, but I won't apologize. And this is from a person who sometimes makes Gongfu at home. You have to have like a tiny teapot and tiny cups, and everything has to be done in a like very specific way. It is kind of like a ceremonial tea in some ways,
Sure.
but I do it every once in a great while, but a lot of people who get into Gong Fu, then the next thing you know, they're kind of like, all of their tea is garbage. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's not.
And is this herbal or is this
It's usually, it depends. It can be green or black, but usually it's black, or actually there are oolongs too, which are like an oxidized tea. But yeah, it's a super, like, you know, the world of wine, how like nuanced that is. Very similar. Of course.
Yeah, no doubt. I can I put in a request? I need to customize. I need to be able to customize my cocoa crate because I'm a caffeine fiend. I love coffee, and I am not anti-caffeine. I need my coffee, but for me, tea is like
too
winding
weak.
down. Like I should. No, it's not too weak at all. I probably would have had a cup of tea with me right now. We're recording in the evening.
Sure.
And I don't want to have caffeine in the evening. Tea for me is like, whew, let me just
like it's
relax.
a relaxation thing. Well, see, I don't drink coffee at all. Okay. So yeah, like it's only tea for me. And so I drink like a stout black tea usually in the morning. And then like if I'm still drinking during the day, I might change to like an oolong or a green later in the day. But you know, it depends on how much coffee you drink too. Like I'm a person, I drink 1 cup and I'm good for tea, black tea. Whereas like, you know, I know there's people who drink like 3 and 4 coffees a day. If you do, there's no tea that's going to get you there. But if you drink 1 coffee a day, there are definitely teas that will get you there.
And do you dislike coffee, or does it not agree with you, or
like
just
the
personal
flavor
preference?
That much, but it also kind of hurts my stomach.
Sure.
Yeah, kind of acidic. So my stomach's like, ugh. So
we've got a tea selection, hopefully customizable for my sake, and then a cat thing.
Yes, a cat item of any, and usually it would probably be a small cat item, I'm thinking. So perhaps a cat pen, or perhaps I don't know, like a cat stamp, or something that you plug into your wall that like makes the room smell nice. Like just something like goofy and cat. Although, you know what? The more I think about it, the more I think that I like weird cat stuff the best. So maybe we would err on the side of like Japanese cat stuff, which is fabulously strange.
Thoughts on Hello Kitty, not for Cocoa Crate, but like just in general. Are you like a fan of that? Chibi is the wrong word probably, but like it's like just literally an outline of a cat and somehow is a bajillion-dollar business. Like
it is.
Yay,
Hello Kitty
or no,
especially.
stupid?
Not stupid, but I personally like. I would say that Sanrio is it is a Japanese product, but the Sanrio version that we see in America is very much like curated for America.
Oh,
so
I didn't realize there was a distinction.
Yeah, so if you want to see what Sanrio curates for Japan, you go to a website called san-x.jp, where you get a range of really weird characters like Tare Panda, a panda that has no bones. And so in order for him to go anywhere, he just has to flop around because he can't walk. This is my jam.
Well, so like Hello Kitty is like, I guess, perception wise, as an American, it to me is like, it's for kids, and parentheses, it's for girls, you know, but clearly in Japan, it's like it's more weird. It's like it's a surreal thing.
It's a huge, yes, it is. But Hello Kitty is also not just for children. Hello Kitty has a huge following among like full grown ass women, like of my age and older. And like Hello Kitty's done all these amazing crossovers. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, one of them was with like Louis Vuitton or like a big bag maker, where women were like shelling over like $15K for a bag with Hello Kitty on it. And you know, grown ass women. So,
but like, it's amazing that, because here's why I'm fascinated by Hello Kitty. I was talking to another colleague friend of mine about it over the years too, because I think he met one of the not the CEO, but like one of the executives, American executives at Hello Kitty. And it's like, Mickey Mouse is a cartoon. It's a television show. It's movies. It's omnimedia, and Mickey Mouse is a brand unto itself. And so, yes, of course, you're going to make toys and clothing and games about Mickey Mouse.
Sure.
But Hello Kitty is just an image. There is no animated. There is no Frozen. There is no what. So it's so fascinating to me that the iconography of Hello Kitty alone powers this empire. Unless there is media that I'm not aware of in Japan or elsewhere.
That's a good question. I can't really answer that actually, but I do know that Hello Kitty, was like early 1970s. Okay. And that was like she was one of the early lineup of Sanrio's characters. And for them, really, it was just be like these very simplistic drawings of characters. And they would have a little backstory, but it's kind of like a Pokemon backstory where like, it's like 2 lines, So,
but Pokemon it's the perfect example of like Pokemon is cards. It is a game. It is video games. It is a cartoon show. It is a Mickey Mouse style.
Right. Well, Hello Kitty
brand.
has that, but it grew out of Sanrio. Actually, was a company that originally made how do I put this into word? I guess you'd say that Sanrio was like a shop for little girls. So you would go there to buy cute stationery and pens and coin purses, and they all had Hello Kitty and the other characters on them. So it's interesting, actually. So Hello Kitty actually is. The company that made it said later that it's actually not a cat, which I find very, very funny.
Oh, I saw that recently. Maybe was that a recent revelation? Oh, that she is a girl in a cat's body or something. What was it?
The New York Times did a piece on it. I honestly can't remember like the essence of it, but like her little backstory that was written for her like way back when is that she was a 3rd grader who lived in London.
Yes.
That was her little story. And like, it doesn't have to have a lot. That's the thing. It's like, because really, and this is when I was a girl and I went in Sanrio stores, which used to exist in America. I don't know if they still do.
Interesting.
And they were all pink and everything was cute. Women love, and girls love cute. Like we are like preternaturally addicted to cuteness sometimes. I'm not going to say everybody, but how many times have you heard a woman go, "Oh my God, it's so cute." Like it is the essence of that, or what Japan calls like kawaii culture.
Okay. Right.
First marketed towards teenage girls, but then goes into another level.
And and not, again, we're not trying to gender stereotype here, but again, like we have a daughter, we really made a reasonable effort to not make her susceptible to marketing. We don't really go into like toy stores. She doesn't watch commercial television with ads, and no one is safe from marketing. You can never escape kid marketing, but just as a tiny kid would be like exactly as you described, like I like that, this is so cute, you would just gravitate towards things that we would traditionally associate with female gender marketing stuff, and not scientific by any stretch, but it was just, and my son, the same, growing up in a hopefully similar environment, just wants to fucking hit things with sticks. Like that's all. Just that. What's his favorite toy? Hitting is his favorite toy.
That's funny.
Anyway, not to digress. One more item in the Coco crate, and then I am very eager to hear about what you're playing because I have thoughts.
Well, I am obsessed with horror of all kinds. So I think the other item in the crate could be a spooky item. So it could be like a little wind-up ghost, or it could be a little decal of a vampire that you stick on your laptop. Like really, that kind of is me in a nutshell. It's like cats, tea, and spook. But
you're a paradox, because tea is calming, relaxing, therapeutic. Like you said, what did you say? Not routine, ritual.
Ritual, right?
Beautiful, ancient. Cats, cute, lettering, art, whatever, and then
you have scary.
Zombies.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense. Like, I'm a juxtaposition of multiple things that don't make sense. But the combo, I think it works somehow.
Yeah. Well, I like it if it's like maybe there's a cuteness to the vampire on your laptop, because you're not going to put something gory on your laptop. To be fair,
they are like for instance, I collect enamel pins, and I have a small collection of spooky ones, and they're all almost like cute spooky. Yep. So yeah, that's a fair thing to say.
All right. Coco Crate, you heard it here. Sign up today, cococrate.biz. Please get that URL before we're done recording so no one steals it.
Yeah, I'll come up with a really strange price, like $7.27 a month or something. I don't know. $6.66 a month. Lol.
Yes, good. Very good. Very good. All right. It's time to get serious. Let's talk about video games. What are you playing?
I am playing a game. Actually, let me back up for a second. So, my husband and I have been married now for about 3 years, and we met in 2014. Mm-hmm. At which point, in our first couple,
I didn't know this was, not that it's recent, but that's not as long. You guys are so good. Like, duh, you guys are good together, and you guys feel like a longer lived couple than perhaps 2014. And I don't know
thank
Patrick,
you.
but
I appreciate that so much, and that would that particular part of what makes it feel kind of like a younger relationship or older relationship when it's younger is something that I could probably like go into in great depth, but it doesn't doesn't fit into what are you playing. So thank you for saying that. But so in that kind of like, I'd say first 4 to 5 date space, my husband-to-be brought over several things to share. And one of them was a little Sierra online game called Jones in the Fast Lane.
Yes.
So so an interesting side note is that I did not, so like in my computer, like game playing era, I was playing a lot of Infocom games.
Okay.
And he was playing a lot of Sierra games.
Mm-hmm.
So we were kind of in like different, places as far as that goes, right? So Joan the Fast Lane.
What's the Infocom stuff? Like, just give me an example.
Let's see. I played a lot of like, actually, I'm not sure if this is Infocom now that I stopped the pause, but I played like the Zorks. Oh yeah, no, Zork is. I played
okay.
The first like spicy game I ever played was a text adventure called Leather Goddesses of Phobos. We should probably talk about that at some point in a later episode because it's funny.
But did Infocom did they put out graphical stuff, or was it all text stuff?
Everything I played was interactive fiction. I don't know if they ever did later titles that had imagery in them. I'm sure our listeners will probably tell us, but in my experience, as a single digit child, I was only playing text adventures.
Okay. Because I guess I'm getting imagery in my mind of perhaps of later Infocom stuff. Maybe they evolved into other things, but this is not where you were. You were doing text.
I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, this is my first like computer experience, basically.
Got
it. I'm on my end playing Infocom games, and my husband is playing Sierra. So he plays this game Jones in the Fast Lane, which I've never heard of. And I think maybe we were talking about like how we both enjoyed like text games at one point in our lives, or that we really got into like point and click. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh man, I'm going to bring this game over that I bet you've never seen before. It's Jones in the Fast Lane. So Jones in the Fast Lane is basically the spiritual source of what the game I've been playing this week is. So the game I've been playing this week is called No Time to Relax. And the thing that they both have in common is that they're both, almost everything in them they have in common, but so both are life sim games that are like, basically you're living your life in the game, and your goals are like, okay, I have to like get certain amounts of like money and education, and a job that will like further my status. And so like, it's funny because the game itself came out in 91, but like
Jones.
Yeah.
Jones in the Fast Lane. You right. Yeah. Not this newer game, of course.
No. But it's like, it's funny to have played this new one, which is very polished up and just really fun, versus, the old one looks old. It's very interesting to like observe in both games that there's like a theme that's kind of like oh, here's what you have to have success in life.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll get to that later. So in
well,
Jones
you said it's a sim or a life sim or whatever, and I'm gonna add a chip on the pile here and call it a capitalism simulator. What do you think about that?
That's actually a really good way of phrasing it. So
because I want you to explain the Jones in the Fast Lane and this new game to listeners if they're not familiar. But I'm telling you, I love Jones in the Fast Lane. I played it a lot as a kid, so I'm deeply. I guess I'm saying I'm with you here, but
well, since
I want to make sure we're giving enough context.
Yeah, well, since you actually played it and loved it as a kid, why don't you explain what it was to you growing up? Like, what was the gameplay to you?
I mean, I think if you're trying to explain it to someone who's never seen it, because I presume it's fairly obscure because it's, when you're talking about Sierra, like we're not talking about King's Quest. Like even if you have never played King's Quest, you're probably aware of it if you care about games, the lineage of games and old games. Jones in the Fast Lane is the game of life, the board game,
right? That's perfect.
But with snark and with some like really low res, not full motion video, but like motion capture characters, if I'm recalling. But then some of it was animated cartoon characters, and it's like a game board where you start at your home and you go to your job, and at first your job is flipping burgers at the fast food restaurant because you have no education and you have no experience, and then you have to sort of maybe you're managing time or managing resources to say, okay, well, I got to put a few points into college here. Then I got to flip burgers because I got to pay my rent, and then I pay my rent. But then I got to make sure that I'm, ticking boxes of like happiness. Like, am I doing enough leisure activities and stuff like that?
Because if you work too much, then you won't be happy.
Yes. Balancing work, school, leisure. I don't recall if there were relationship mechanics. Like, do you need to like get married? I don't recall that being part of it. Okay.
And that's also not a part of No Time to Relax either. It's they just don't. It is really, I'm assuming, I did not look this up, but I'm assuming that the folks that made No Time to Relax must have either had a conversation with the creators of Jones or like licensed, because it does not say it's a direct sequel, but I mean, it is the same game, really. Except you can play with multiple people. That's the thing that changes it.
Oh, yes, right. So in Jones, you were playing against the computer, but maybe it was multiplayer also. I can't remember. But this game, and you're linking to the Switch version. So
that's
this is
right. So you can
online
play up to
multiplayer
4.
or local or both.
You can do both.
Great.
Right. So then, so here's where No Time to Relax threw like, a curveball. So you've got your up to 4 multiplayer. And then if you have more than, so you have 2 game modes, actually. Let me back up. There's 2 game modes. So there's like I can't remember what it's called, but it's like peaceful. You and the other player are just going to go about your lives and try to build your lives how you want them. Then there's a version where there's an additional store on your town map, and it allows you to hex the other player with shit like crime got high and like someone robbed you and stole $937, or I don't know, your car caught on fire, like so it'll mess the other person up to reaching their eventual goals.
Those events are triggered by opposing players somehow. Like, do you build up?
Yes,
so you spend points to like mess people.
You would go to the hex store.
Okay, you buy the hexes.
Yeah, you really do, and you consult with a fortune teller lady with a crystal ball who's like, cool, I'll do the hex, and so you can fuck with the other player. So that's how I think they kind of tried to innovate and make it a little bit more their own. Because I did not play Jones in the Fast Lane extensively. I played it once with my husband. But I don't think that option was ever in the original game. No,
and I don't recall if there was even multiplayer, robust multiplayer.
So they wanted to make it, a little spicier.
So does the spice work, and does it become a meaningful mechanic? Meaning, like, I could spend this money, coins, whatever the currency is, on bettering my education. But if I fuck with my opponent now at this moment, I can get ahead of them. Is that?
I mean, yeah, I would say that you definitely could. However, there's also another approach you can take where, like, let's say that like you're playing with, let's just say you're playing a 2-player game and and competitively, and the other person is like working their asses off like AM to PM, and they're never taking breaks or never, doing entertainment things to like let themselves relax. So they'll have a very like low like happiness rating, but like they'll get, they'll progress faster in their career. So that actually is what my husband was doing. And so I was like, I'm going to see what happens if I work like half the day and then relax the other half of the day for most of those days. And I won.
Well, and so
he made more money, but I won. Right.
So that's the question. What is the victory mechanic according to the game? And can you set parameters, or can you play a game where money is the only victory condition, or is happiness the only victory condition?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. And that's because we played it through twice completely. And I was like, okay, so like, for instance, can you win if you're in the end when the game is finished, you're both, one of you is happier than the other. And what I figured out is that you have, so like the image of your character is in the corner of the screen, and each character has like a little Diablo style kind of like circle around their picture where it's like the happiness, the education, the money, and actually no, one is a heart, one is happiness, one is money, one is education, and one is a heart. And I don't know what the heart is because I thought it was happiness.
Is that health or something like physical well-being or something like that? Yeah,
maybe. Actually, that's a good point because there's a gym, so you have to also like work out. Oh, you don't have to, but you should.
That is, so it's I'm looking at the image too. It's hopefully a matrix of these 4 things need to be in balance to win the game. And if you skew towards one or the other, because like, look, we want to say that money isn't everything, and having all the money doesn't make you happy, and then you don't win at life just because you're the richest person. But like, money's important, at least in our society as we've structured it. So you like, if you're struggling to pay your rent, you're not going to be that will hurt your happiness factor. Like I'm saying in real life. So I think that matrix is an okay representation of a game mechanic.
Yeah, I definitely reflected on that because like the game definitely has, I think it's got an even better sense of humor than the original Jones did. Like really,
And Jones was so silly and wacky and lampooned the sort of like work a day, flipping burgers. I feel like the names of the college and the names of the stores that you could work. There was a department store. Oh, clothing was important in Jones, where you had to save money to buy a suit if you're going to work at the bank. You can't walk into work at the bank wearing a t-shirt because they're going to say you're fired. So there was all those kinds of mechanics too. So that's in this
all
game,
in this
maybe?
as well. Yep.
Great.
Like it's pretty much word for word now that I'm like comparing the two directly. Like it's almost the exact same game, but it's updated and it has new art and new writing basically. But like, yeah, the more I look at it, the more I'm like, there's no way that they did not like I don't think this could be like their own game without them getting permission or rights or whatever
perhaps
from Jones, unless Jones
it's a new, like publisher said, Porcelain Fortress is the developer and publisher. Perhaps these are people who made the original game, who used to work at Sierra or whatever. I'm just speculating. We could look that up later, maybe, but
it was a Kickstarter project. I actually just looked it up, and it says it's inspired by classic life simulation games of the 80s and 90s. It does not mention Jones in the Fast Lane in any, which I find very interesting because that's what the game is.
You know what? Let me, and I don't mean to divert you from the rest of your experience with the game. I'm just really enjoying this because I happen to love this game. But
so when you saw this on the script, you must have been like, "What?"
Yeah, I was like, "Wait, but here's my question for you, and perhaps something to discuss. There are games that are so influential that they spawn lineages of other games or clones or ripoffs. Like there's a million ripoffs of Tetris and there's a million clones of Minecraft. And even in other hugely important games, you're seeing threads of Minecraft in there. You know what I'm saying? So we know this, right? And then there are games that existed, that we played, that we loved, that have no spiritual successors.
Yeah.
Lemmings.
Oh, Lemmings.
Lemmings is an amazing, beautiful, spectacular puzzle game from probably the early 90s. Name one game since then that looks, feels, is inspired by Lemmings, because I can't think of one.
No, I can't think of one either.
Despite Lemmings being amazing. Isn't that weird?
No, and it's weird because I don't know, like, if it has something to do with how much it catches on, like, how much, like, how many people, like, okay, that Tetris was a massive success, but like, was Lemmings not a big success? Is that
they made sequels? They made a 3D version. Like, there were iterations on the Lemmings brand, but when Lemmings came to an end, there was no, like, I don't know, like, hey, we're kickstarting. Remember Lemmings? Well, we're kickstarting the cool version of that now for 2020. Like, I find that really interesting.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And so I have not heard or thought about Jones in the Fast Lane for 30 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
And now you're saying, hey, someone remembers it and they kickstarted it and now it's here. And it's literally the same game. It just looks great on the Switch. You know what I mean?
Pretty much. Yeah, it looks great. Has really funny kind of like humor moments in it that are definitely like relevant to like the era you and I are living in. So you'll have moments where you'll be like, oh my God, that's funny. Like that definitely is in there. So yeah, I mean, I feel like if you love Jones, there's no doubt you're going to love playing this game too. And it's cool that they added the extra parts of it that allow you to play. And I did check. It is couch or online, so you could play both.
You're playing with Patrick on the couch, and so my question is, like, does it work well as a couch multiplayer? And
absolutely.
Does it feel like a family game night kind of thing? Do you think kids? How much?
Absolutely. Maybe I don't know, like. So, them being kids, right? Like you and I as adults, we're like, oh, life. Okay. You go to school, you make money, you et cetera, et cetera. Like we know the whole, I don't know the ages of your kids or if they're going to be like, oh yeah, like this is how life works. And they'll know automatically what they need to do. So the only thing
that's the fun of the Life board game. Like the Life board game is for kids to be like, I'm gonna be a doctor, whatever.
As long as they are of an age to know, like, okay, the goal of the game is to develop a nice life. And like, here's the things you have to do. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I can't remember if this was in the original Jones, but I think it was, you can also play the stock market.
Right. I wonder if that was in there.
And that can make you more money, or of course, it can suck
obliterate
money.
You.
Yeah, exactly. But it's fun, So
I'm interested in. I'm always thinking about this kind of media through the lens of kids, because, like, my daughter's 8, and so for her, it's like she would really be interested in this game. But a kid's mentality of like, what should a grown-up life be, is like. Currently she wants to be an artist or a scientist or she wants to read books to kids at the library, like as her job.
That's awesome.
And so, you as your parent, you want to say that's awesome. And then on the side, you want to be like, okay, like you can't make money reading to children at the library. Like that's not a job.
Right. You can't do that. But like, you don't want to tell that to an 8-year-old.
No, we certainly don't. But I guess I'm saying, like, so here's a game that's going to be like, all right, let's start the game. What do you want to be with your life? Well, you can't be that, so flip some burgers. And that would be really funny to see.
I think so too.
Interesting. A lot of reading. Is it very text or is it voiced?
No,
how much?
It's I didn't hear any voice acting, actually. So no voice, and not a ton of reading, honestly. Like, I mean, you have to read basic menus like, what job do I want? Or, how much am I going to bet, or rather, how much am I going to invest in stocks? But like, other than that, no, not really.
This might be a fun game to
yeah, like
play
if you end up
cold.
playing it with them, I'd be interested to hear like how they took it. But I would say it's like, in my opinion, it's definitely child friendly.
Yeah, it's rated T for teen, so I wonder if there's like crude adult humor some here and there.
No,
Have
I
you
mean, I
spotted
haven't
that?
seen
No?
it, and we played it twice. But I mean, I guess it could be possible. Also, another just nice little side note, really nice diversity in this game. Like
Oh,
the
sure,
four
yeah.
players are like white, Black, Asian, and one character is what I would call brown. So he could be Indian. I can't really tell for sure, but like I'm appreciating not only that, but seeing more. Like I'm starting to go, oh my God, I'm playing games with Black characters, or I'm playing a game as a Black character, and that's a whole nother show all on its own. But it's just nice to be seeing more and more of that, like becoming more normal.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Of course, it's reminding me. I don't want to get into Squadrons again, but the story campaign of Squadrons was like shockingly, greatly diverse. Like women of color are the commanders, like they're the bosses for both factions, and like crazy diversity in the squads, including like I remember the story is not that spectacular, but you sort of get to know your squad mates, and there was an Imperial pilot who was male, who was Asian, whatever, and then just like casually, randomly, for no narrative reason, was like da da da, and my husband said this, ha ha ha. Moving on to whatever galactic battle we're fighting, and I was like, "Oh my God, this guy's gay for just because."
Right.
And I just was applauding, and it was great to see that in Star Wars was rad.
Yeah, no, it really is. I appreciate that, and I do think that we might see more and more and more of that slowly, to the point to where when our kids are in their 20s, well, your kids, I don't have kids, but when kids are in their 20s, that they'll be seeing that more normally.
I think so. I think we're on that path. Despite still having lots of work to do, we're certainly on that path, and it's great. It's great.
Yeah, it really is.
What else? I'm just loving that you're taking me back to Jones in the Fast Lane here. That's this is fantastic.
Well, so the only, I think, criticism piece that I had, and once again, this is 2 full playthroughs, so it's not like maybe I haven't explored everything, is that I kind of thought it would be neat if the game kind of rewarded you. Like, for instance, I did win for resting more, but as I played it the second time through, I kind of was like, well, if you wanted to say, like, like one of the options you had was to become, I think, a gym trainer. So, like all the jobs start at like $5, $6 an hour or whatever. And, you do the grunt work, you come up, and then you, like, for instance, for the trainer, I think like your top salary was like $14 an hour. And then like if you went and worked at like the equivalent of Google, you could make like, I think $37 an hour as the CEO. So the thing is that like you were, if you were going to go for a lesser job, there'd be no way, like the way you win the game, or the way the game ends is how I should say, is when someone fills up all 4 of their little bars.
Right. Okay.
So there's no way, unless you were hexing people, I guess, that you could slow down their bars. Like if you decided to be a gym trainer and they were like, no, I'm going to work at, whatever the fake Google is, like there's no way that they wouldn't finish the game first. But maybe like, like I said, like Patrick finished the game first, my husband, but he didn't win because I got a bonus for resting more. So I was about to say, well, it feels like you just have to like make the most money you can. And that's kind of, the only option. So I'm just wondering if there's any way to win the game. In short, like, could I win the game if I chose to like go the gym trainer route and make like $15 less an hour as like my max salary?
If the game is well made and conscientious of that, then there should be combination of victory conditions that add up to something, meaning the entire circle matrix needs to be filled with stuff. And maybe it doesn't have to all be money. Maybe it's a combination of a minimum threshold of happiness, but then you can get super happy, and a minimum threshold of money. You can't be destitute, but you have to be, successful. But if you take the chill job that pays $7 an hour, you'll be happier than if you take the high pressure job, or that there are mechanics that push and pull those factors around. Sure. I don't know if you play Civilization at all, or if we talked about it here, but like in a normal game of Civilization, there are multiple victory conditions. And so you can bomb the shit out of every other civilization, but your citizens will be war weary, and their happiness will go down, and you will struggle to achieve scientific breakthroughs, or you will struggle to reigning control, keep civil unrest under control. And so there's that push and pull where you can't go too hard on a single strategy, or you'll crumble. Your setup will crumble. And so, like, sure. I'm not saying this game is as deep as Civilization, but like, if I were looking at this game and wanting to play it and buy it and enjoy it, I would hope there would be some complexity to that victory condition, and not just like make $200 to win.
Right. And that's what I'm wondering, but I don't know if in 2 playthroughs I can really say that, but like, for instance, this is a bone I've had to pick with other games. And the first game that comes to mind is BioShock, because I'm like, oh my God, this world, this acting, like everything about it is so great. And then I felt like, I got to the end and I played the peaceful run, the first way through. So that means that you don't, for anybody who has been living under a rock for the past 15 years, that means that you don't kill any of the little sisters by mining them for Adam during your run of the game.
This is original first BioShock.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then I was like, okay, well, they have this whole good and evil dynamic in BioShock, right? So I'm like, all right, I'm going to play the game again. And this time what I'm going to do is I am going to kill the little sisters for Adam. And so what that means is that you get ahead a little bit, more in the game by having more of this precious resource, but you're killing children. And so I thought, well, there's no way that the game's going to run really differently because I'm killing these kids, right?
Yeah.
And there's a scene later in the game where one of them takes you to like a secret hideout of theirs. And like, you see them crawling in and out of the walls a lot. And at some point they actually like bring you there, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm like, there's no way that like that's not going to happen in this setup. So like, what's going to be the replacement for that?
What's going to be different on this run? Yeah,
it happened, and I was like, I think it was 2K that made that. I was like, 2K. There is no way that you're going to murder all these children, and then they're going to be like, why don't you come into my secret hiding place? Like, no.
This is the most important. This is the most important thing in game design, at least to me, and it sounds like it's very important to you, is like consequences, persistence, choices that matter. Because if you're choosing between killing children and not killing children, and that choice literally has no consequence, then that is ultimately bad game design.
And it didn't, and that bummed me out so much, because there's so many things about BioShock that totally floored me. But I will also say that I think it's pretty common in most games to see, and especially AAA, to see like some elements just polished to the point to where you can like see your reflection, and some elements just not finished, like not as they should be.
Because this is a continuum of the art form. What did or do most consumers care about when they want to spend $60 in a game? And I think there's been some thinking over the last 20 years that like, the prettier the graphics, the prettier the polish, the better a game is. And we've gotten away from that. We've moved towards games, Dwarf Fortress is a game that I am really excited to play when a graphical version eventually arrives on Steam. They're working on it. and it's the deepest, most sophisticated, most immersive game you've ever played, and it's ASCII characters. It's not, but it's about choices, consequences, deeply simulated worlds. That gets me going way more than graphic fidelity or
Sure.
that polish that you said.
Sure. Yeah. Different. I guess, that's the thing. It's like everyone's looking for, different types of things that like perfectly hit their notes. Like we were talking last time, like that perfect alchemy. And I think that, it's hard, right? For like someone creating a game to have the time to even be able to think about, oh, well, this will appeal to this person. Then this will appeal. You just have to make the game you want to make. And, it's going to find the people it wants to find, I guess. But
yeah. Well,
I'll also say that I've played games for so long that I think that I'll be honest, I think I'm pretty demanding, like, as a consumer.
Yes. Well, I guess my final thought on that is that I think we as an audience writ large are moving toward caring about richer, more complicated things, and therefore we are getting the games by come hell or high water. That maybe they're not always coming from AAA, but they are coming from Patreon, Kickstarter,
totally
game jams, early access. That's I just love that. And yes, I am 100% with you because I am fortunate. Like we have good jobs. We are fortunate enough to be able to say like, I want to play this game. I'll spend $20. I'll spend $60. What I cannot afford to spend is time on a bad game.
Yeah. And that's tough because I've had a couple times, and I mean, I'm sure this will happen to me again in life, but like I've had times where I've been like, oh my God, that looks like such a cool idea, for a game. And then like I buy it out of excitement because I am a very excited person. I'll be like, oh my God, it's so great. And then I'll buy it and then I'll be like, this is not good.
What's a game that
I'll be so sad.
What has burned you recently? Because
I got to think about it and get back to you. It hasn't been super recent that this has happened, but I can definitely like go through my Switch games, for instance. I'm really weak to this on Switch. Whereas like my husband will be like, oh, I'm going to look up the ratings and stuff. And I'm the type of person to be like, you can't trust the ratings because you never, anything that's rated by people is, you never know if you're going to get a solid, trustworthy, at least to me, right? So like, I might look at a movie, and if the movie's like a 50 or a 60% on like Rotten Tomatoes, sorry, my brain wouldn't spit it up. I'll be like, you know what? Like it seems like some people were iffy, but like I'm gonna try and see, So
but it's about picking apart. I like the wisdom of crowds, and I generally look at a lot of not reviews necessarily, but like a lot of chatter on Reddits and Discords, and be like, I just keep hearing good, positive things, and and there's a difference. I guess I'm saying there's a difference between like, this is the best game. I love this game. It's so great. It's my favorite game. But I'm looking for someone to say, I love this game because it lets you make amazing, persistent choices, and there's such emergent gameplay. And I'm like, oh, okay. Those are things I care about. So lots of people saying good things about that aspect is going to be appealing to me. Where like you could make the best, I don't know, NFL football game ever in the history of the world, and everyone can agree this is the best Madden that's ever Maddened, and I'll be like, looks great, and I will never play it. You know what I mean?
That's me in Grand Theft Auto all the way. I'm like, clearly Grand Theft Auto is like great game playing. It has to be for the people that like love it so much. I'm like, yep, you just keep Grand Thefting over there.
Some part of me wants to give it a try because maybe I don't know what I'm missing. But there's something about like the urban real life setting is just a tick in the minus column. And I don't know why I can't get over that. But for me, it's like, I need dragons, or I need spaceships, or I need magic.
I mean, if the real world is not interesting to you, and to be quite frank, it's not really interesting to me. I mean, I have to just go be in the real world. So it's like, I'm not really into that. I also want fantasy settings, or, and when I say fantasy, I don't mean just dragons. I mean like, a world that is not the world I currently live in.
Yes.
Because why would
creative.
Why would I do that?
Right. And because there is a fantasy in being a criminal or a mob boss or whatever it, hijacking cars, or like making, why do we watch The Sopranos? Like The Sopranos takes place in the real world, but it's a great show because this is a life that most people don't lead. And I get that.
Right.
That's fine. I'm with you.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I was like that, that's kind of like, oh, what's it like to be in the mafia?
Right.
Right.
But the game that burned me so hard,
Ooh.
and I'm still not over it, man. Everyone on the Nintendo Switch subreddits and like the RPG forums and the JRPG world is like Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is this,
and I never played it.
I would be thrilled one day to find out if you liked it, because, and I don't have to get too deep into it here, but like, I love JRPG. I was hankering for a great JRPG.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I can have this big, sprawling, epic JRPG on this little beautiful Switch that everyone on the planet Earth raves about. Loves. And it's like the battle system's so deep and the characters and whatever. And I tried it, and it was the combination of just crazy anime cringe, ridiculous, the female characters that just were too much, too over the top. A map system where I'm like, okay, I'm a smart person, and there's the fucking waypoint. The quest is right there. And hey, every once in a while, oh, you know what? There was a cave. I gotta go around I missed the cave entrance. Oh, dumb, stupid me. But time and again, I was like, what the fuck is wrong with this overworld map? I cannot move anywhere. Yep. And then the battle system was like, I get it. I know that it's deep. I know that there's a lot of systems, and I'm not afraid of that. But it was, every battle was like, I don't know I don't know what happened. I've done 600 battles. I literally do not understand it. Yeah. And it was those combination of things that was just like, oh my God, every time I touch this thing, I want to throw it out the window. And that was like the first big Switch title where I was like, no.
Yeah.
I paid $60 for a game, and I just said no more.
No. Yeah. No, I totally hear you. And I think I also, interestingly enough, huge JRPG fan, at one point really only played that. And like saw it and had friends be like, oh my God, it's so good. And like never felt particularly drawn to it myself. Like, don't know why, just didn't. So I find that interesting to hear.
Maybe one day. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what else was a big fat bummer was Octopath Traveler. Did you try it? Did you play it?
God. Okay. Yes. That is one that bummed me out. And so I'm glad you mentioned it, because now I'm remembering. So what happened was I played the demo. And I got real hyped about that demo. I was like, this is really good writing. And I like this, like, I like the world and I like the story building. And I think what happened was that I think I played long enough to pick up, I think, 3 or 4 characters. And all I can remember is that I felt the game itself was beautiful.
Yes.
But
stunning.
I felt like, I felt specifically like that the characters had these great stories, but then when you picked them up, their stories didn't really intertwine in a way that I felt they should. Now, I was told by people who finished the game that they do way later down the line, but like
I think like there is some ending that's like, and then everyone's together. And look, That's that is actually the very common criticism of like the stories don't intertwine. And you know what? I was like, okay, fine. So they don't intertwine. Let me get past that. And even then, I found the writing and the stories. I was falling asleep. This is a game that is stunning, beautiful, amazing graphics, amazing music, and truly the marquee gem of this was the battle system. The battle system is very, very, very good. A beautiful refresh of your Final Fantasy turn-based battle system, which was what we want. It's like, as fans of these games, this was it. And I was literally falling asleep,
so sad,
reading the writing. I remembered it. I remembered pinpointing what was wrong, and I was like, I could delete every other line, and the story would be the same. Ooh. It was overwritten. It needed the red pen, I think, is what I concluded back then.
Well, it's probably good that I didn't keep playing, because if I had noticed that as an actual real life editor, I probably would have like lost my fucking mind.
Yeah, that's what I think you would have gotten there too. So you only played the demo and never bought the game, or no?
I bought the freaking game.
Yeah.
I bought the whole game because the demo sold me, and I was like, oh man, I've really wanted something like this. This is going to be so great. And then I bought it, and I started playing it, and I just, that's a terrible feeling when you slowly realize you're like, oh no, because I thought this was going to be, why isn't it what I thought it was going to be?
Yeah. You're like, well, I'm 10 hours in now, so what's happening? And and Xenoblade is one of those games. Xenoblade 2, I can't speak to the first one because that is also beloved. Mm-hmm. But I kept seeing this shit, which was like, all right, but like once you get past hour 30, that's where it really kicks in. And I'm just like, no, it should not take 30
hours to get somewhere. That, it's so funny. That's a really common complaint in the Korean drama world, the K-drama is like, oh, well, you just have to watch 5 episodes and it starts to get good. And I was like, that's 5 hours. Like, I'm not putting 5 hours of my life into something to wait for it to get good. My expectation is that I want to be captured like quickly, like within the first 30 minutes to an hour. And if I'm not, I'm out. There's too many things to consume.
I am. Am
I impatient? Like, I don't know.
I'm conflicted about this as a creator.
Really?
Because I think a lot about sitcoms, for example. Seinfeld, Cheers, some of the greatest, most iconic pieces of media that have been created for television, for example, sucked in their first season or seasons. They did not, 30 Rock, they didn't hit their stride. They were figuring themselves out. They were testing the waters. They were getting the chemistry down with the cast. And also, as someone who has made internet shows, like, it takes 10 episodes before you figure out, oh, that's what this show is. But now, today, we live in an impatient world. I am an impatient person who does not want to watch the first season of Schitt's Creek. Is not amazing, in my opinion. And everyone's like, you got to get to season 2, And it's funny, my wife just was like, had it on. I was playing a game and she had it on because she's like, I'm gonna pick up Schitt's Creek. Let's see where it goes. We were laughing out loud. I was barely even paying attention to it, and I was dying, cracking up. And I would not have stuck with it.
Yeah.
Because season 1 didn't click for me. So I am with you, but also conflicted about that.
Yeah, no, totally get it. Totally get it.
Art needs to breathe.
The show that came to mind for me was Deep Space Nine. The first season was very kind of, I don't want to say wooden, but it definitely felt awkward. And what I had done was I watched all of Next Generation, which is of course excellent. And then I tried watching Deep Space Nine because a boyfriend at the time was like, you're going to love this show so much. And I was like, okay. And I watched the first season and I was like, I don't know. And then when I got into the second season, anyway, it ended up being one of my favorite shows of all time and one of my favorite Star Trek shows of all time. So I was like, wow, if I had given up on that. But let's also think that when I watched that show, I was probably like, I don't know, like 28 or 29. And like, I feel like I had more free time.
Oh, so you watched it later though. You were not watching it like
not when it aired,
in its time. Yeah. Okay.
Right. No.
Because I thought you were going to allude to the fact that like, hey, when you're a kid, you don't have anything else going on, so of course you're going to stick with.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a kid, but I was like young enough, to be like, oh yeah, like, like maybe. Maybe I have more time to watch stuff like, but the way I am now, it's like, I don't know. I'm like, oh man, I have so many different like types of media to think about consuming that I just am not going to like, it has to really get me. Anyway, I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over.
No, but I mean, I'm agreeing with you, so I'm enjoying it because we're in sync. Just an adjacent question here, because I'm really not much of a Trek fan, but I appreciate it and respect it. And lately, I have been thinking about just kind of like binging through one of them, like maybe Next Generation or something. And I liked the grittiness and darkness of Deep Space Nine. That appealed to me when it was on. Again, I did not watch it religiously, but if it was on late at night, I'd be like, oh, like cool Star. This is the cool Star Trek, and that always got me going. Too. So if I was going to choose one, which one should I check out?
Well, you said you already watched Deep Space Nine?
I mean, not
completely.
If it was on and I had nothing else to do as a teenager, then I watched some Deep Space Nine and some Next Generation. But like, I'm thinking about like, hey, as an adult, let me go watch some like 90s Star Trek and see how much of it holds up. Like that is an intriguing experiment that I would, and maybe even with the kids, with my daughter, I think she would love Next Generation.
Be interesting. I mean, it's so hard for me to be like in my personal taste, I'm going to be like, you should watch Deep Space Nine from beginning to end.
Yeah.
But like in my like overall thought of like, oh, really, like of the themes and the acting and I kind of feel like the Next Generation is like the benchmark to me.
I worry that Next Generation will look hokey, and I don't mean special effects. I just mean like that it is, I don't know, Star Wars was like swashbuckling adventure, and Trek was always like, let's think about philosophy now and discuss the ramifications of this. And I appreciate both, but I was always a Star Wars guy because that was cool and fun.
Totally. No, I hear you. And if I really think about it, I would say that I was a Star Wars girl too. But I do like Trek. And I definitely, I mean, if I was going to tell you to watch any series personally, I would say DS9. I really would.
Yeah. All right. Food for thought. I'm gonna try think about carving out time in my. You know what? Maybe that's a good like play a chill game and put on and binge through a Trek series.
It very well
so that
could
you
be.
don't have to if you're not fully attentive to one or the other, but you're absorbing them both. I'm gonna think on that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about some games that I am not playing.
When I saw that note, I was like, "Oh man, tell me more about this."
And I'll be brief here because I'm very eager to get to
them.
Because I'm not playing them, so I don't have a ton to say. And also, we have a topic to discuss momentarily. But Pac-Man 99 came out for Switch, and it is the latest 99 battle royale, like taking a classic game like Tetris or Super Mario Brothers and putting a battle royale spin on it. And hey, Pac-Man 99, and I'm here to tell you, it is Pac-Man with some other things. And it's fine, but I don't. I wanted to dig it. I'd never been much of a Pac-Man person, so it is a cool idea. But also, like when these games came out, like Tetris was the same problem. It's like it doesn't explain shit to you. So you're like
No.
playing it and you're not sending ghosts to the other player. You're eating ghosts and then you're sending something to the other players, and then you're getting other Pac-Man symbols on your board, but then those Pac-Man symbols don't attack you. They slow you down, but it's like, but who cares if I'm slow? Like I don't know. It just wasn't clicking.
Wasn't clicking for you. Yeah, I get it.
And I hope that for people who adore Pac-Man and who want to, like, if you love Pac-Man and then you want to play like the amped up crazy version of Pac-Man, like, yeah, that I hope this is scratching the itch for you, but I was like,
I also feel like it might be like a style that appeals to people who are like extremely competitive and into the competition, like with a bunch of strangers aspect, and that is like the exact thing I like tried to avoid in my personal gaming
for sure. But I'll say this: I, as someone who, as we've discussed recently, started enjoying competitive. There's something about competitive where it's like, yeah, I'm shooting this guy, or wow, this player's really good. I'm gonna strategize to like counter their moves or their cards or whatever. Like, yeah, that's called playing an opponent. But Pac-Man 99 or whatever is like, you don't know who is playing against you. It's just a bunch of craziness going on the sides, and craziness coming in and craziness coming out. I have no idea what my opponents are doing because it's just crazy Pac-Man time. And I get that, but that does not scratch the competitive itch. So it's like, it's not for competitive people and it's not for casual people. So like, who is this for? And I guess there are lots of people who it's for, but it's not for me, you know? So I'm not playing Pac-Man 99 anymore. Okay. Katamari Damacy.
Katamari
Damacy. I have admired this game from afar. It has been on my Switch wish list for some time because it's a PlayStation 2 game that is remastered for modern consoles and has been on the eShop for a while.
Correct.
Everyone loves it. Beautiful, quirky, weird ass Japanese game where you push a ball around and accumulate items, and you're trying to gain size as you roll around, and it's got this weird story, and just everything about it is charming, quirky, bizarre, super psychedelic. Love it. And then it went on sale for like $6 or something. I'm like, you know what? I've been meaning to pick this up. Let me grab Katamari. And really loved all the things that people love about it. But oh my fucking God, the control scheme, I cannot get my brain around it because and there's 3 different control schemes. There's like default, simple, something.
Yeah,
there's
it's trash. The control scheme is trash. So funny story. I was so excited for that to come out. It came out. I tried to play it. I was like, what the fuck is the matter with these controls? Right. And my husband was like, saw how crestfallen I was, and he was like, oh my gosh. So he specifically got a dongle that would allow me to play the game with, was it a PlayStation controller? I have to ask him. I know he had to buy a dongle. He was like, this is just so you can play Katamari.
Okay, but is he remapping the controls?
I think he might have. I have to ask him. I will ask him for you. But,
so let me tell you specifically the specific thing that is preventing me from playing this game, which is that the simplified controls start making sense, but for some god unknown reason, you know, you're playing a third-person game, and the left stick moves your character around, and that works great, as intended. The right stick, if you move it right, you look right. You move it left, you look left. It moves the camera, so you can see what you're doing. This is part of every game ever. First person, third person, ever. It is how joysticks fucking work. For some reason, in Katamari, up is look left and down is look right, or something like that, which means it's more like a throttle system that then turns, and my brain, You could tell me up is left, down is right. Up is left, down is right. Practice. Up, left, down, right. You could tell me that 6 billion times. My brain, trained on 30, 40 years of video games now, will never do that. And so that stupid little hiccup is like, I would love this game. This game is a joy.
If you can play it right.
I have to put it down. I have to put it down because it is just touching this game makes me frustrated because of this one stupid thing. Why?
Yeah.
Why is it like that?
As you're telling it to me, I'm now remembering that was the exact same reason that I had issues with it.
So if he mapped the controls, if he remapped the buttons to then so that left becomes left and right becomes right, then that's a beautiful world. Then maybe you are playing this game.
I think he did. I literally can see the dongle in my brain right now. Like I know exactly what it looks like. So I'm going to ask for you because I will say that it is like if you're going to experience those games, I do feel like Reroll is like the best modern presentation. But yes, I agree with you about the controls. So let me get back to you on that.
And I think that I'm going to assume here that this game is it's weird on purpose. It's bizarre. It's funky on purpose. And
it's not really on purpose. I think it just is itself. That's the best way. So just a fun bit of a tidbit. Katamari was made by a game designer led by a gentleman named Keita Takahashi. He still makes games. And I think if you were to Google Keita Takahashi and look at the other things he's done, which have not been a ton, you would be like, oh. Like, all I can say is that every game he's ever made has been at least that strange, if not stranger. And
I love strange.
Me too.
That's cool. I guess I'm asking, and I don't know if this is a question for you to answer or not, but I'm asking aloud. Controls feel is part of games. It is part of the game mechanics. Some games
it can ruin a game.
Well, like it can ruin a game. But I guess I'm saying, like, as the designer of a game, some games can feel slow and wishy-washy, and some games are like super precise, and neither is bad. They are unto themselves depending on the game and its mechanics. But I guess I'm asking, like, did this designer say up is left and down is right to make it weird and hard? Or is it just not a mistake, but is it just like, hey, this is how it is? And it's like, well, no, that doesn't. You know what I mean? Does the control scheme add challenge? Is this a challenge to overcome, or is it bad design?
So what I just looked it up real quick because I was sure that someone would write about it, and Polygon did. And they said that what happened was that the unwieldy movement of the original game is what you're experiencing, and that they didn't change it as an update. So basically, like, as I recall, like playing on a PlayStation controller, you were using your two joysticks.
It's the same controller. It's two joysticks with face buttons. So, like, right. How is it different how is a modern system interpreting this old game any differently from a control scheme point of view?
Well, they're not digging into it deeply from what I'm quickly scanning over, but basically it's just saying that the Switch version will allow for motion control. Don't know if that's actually a thing or if it made it to the final game.
Maybe I should try. Yeah, I did see that. I would say
maybe try that because that at least could be something. Try that.
All right.
And then I think, but what this review basically says is it feels like you're fighting the game to do what you want, and that's what you don't want.
No. Unless it is a like, hey, this game is weird. So if you can overcome this, if you can retrain your brain to overcome. Some games are hard because you're fighting a hard boss, and maybe some games are hard because the controls make no fucking sense.
No, see,
I can get on board with that.
To me, my memory of Katamari, because I played them from the very first one, is just push your sticks forward and roll that ball. That's it. Okay. That's what it should be like, in my opinion.
That's what it should be.
So anyway.
What a joy that would be. Because I'm looking at this game being like, this is so fun. But I can't control I can't have fun.
Worst case scenario, I will mail you the dongle.
And did you use the dongle for the Switch?
I can't
or
remember.
Are you playing it somewhere
I think
else?
so.
Okay.
I think because did it come out for only the Switch though, or did it come out for all platforms? That's what I can't remember.
I don't know. But it, you know, you'll tell me another time, or ask Patrick. But like there is an 8-bit DOE controller or multiple controllers where they have button mapping, which means you plug the dongle in and then you're using the 8-bit DOE controller, which would just work like a Pro controller, but with the added functionality of like, I can make the A button the X button because I want to. And that's rad especially for accessibility and things like that.
I've heard that their controllers are great. I've never owned one, but I'm just like have heard nothing but good things about them.
Yes, same. And I'll tell you one more game that I do recommend, but I think I'm going to be done with. It is called Trax Toybox Edition, and this is also on Switch. It is also a Steam game. I think it's just called Trax. So I think Trax is like the Steam PC robust version, and maybe the Toybox Edition is more of a console-y Switch version.
Okay.
It's model trains. It is the Brio or Thomas the Tank style model train set, toy train set, not hobbyist train set.
Okay.
Where you're connecting the tracks. And my kids have these physical toys, but I was like searching for something that we could play together or that would keep them occupied, something my son could do because he was getting frustrated with Mario 3D World because, you know, Mario is a fun game, but it's a hard game and at some places, you know, it's a platformer. So this is just so freaking cute and great because, like, imagine you had a train set, but with infinite tracks, and you could build a little town, and you could build a park, and you could put people, and the people can be at the station, and you can pick them up, and then you can drive them to the next station, and it's open. And like there are some game modes that are like use this many pieces and get the people from here to there, and that's cool. But like, I was just like, what if we just spent a Sunday building a model train town? And it was great. It was great. And I do recommend it. And it plays really well on Switch. Like I was worried it would be like, whoa, you put too many pieces. Now it's running at 10 frames per second or something. But no, it actually runs quite well.
Nice.
And the controls are intuitive, but the UI is whoo. Like I was like, I know that I can change the color of this park bench. It says that I can. I cannot figure it out. And you know, when you can't figure out something on a video game, you just Google it.
Right.
No one's playing this game. Like the PC version seems to be active, and people are like, "Oh, on PC you do this," but there is like no information on the internet about how to control this game. So it was a very bizarre like imagine not being able to Google something like that doesn't exist anymore.
You Google it and you're like, "There's nothing." So
when that happens, real. You're like, oh my God, what am I in a parallel universe? Like, what the hell's happening? So that was like a weird, bizarre thing. But once you get the hang of it, it was like, imagine a toy Sim City without the like budgets and mechanics. It's just like put everything everywhere. And it has so many pieces and houses and flower shop and bakery and coffee shop. Like you can make this beautiful, cute town, but then it also is like missing like, but I want to have a sidewalk. I want to have a path or something to like, you know, when you're designing your Animal Crossing village and you're like, I have a house here and I have a house here and I need a little path to go between the houses to make it cute.
Yeah.
And I was like, where's the path? That's like the one thing that I wanted from this game to make everything cute and fun. It was like, oh, you have everything except the one thing. And so I was, and then the UI issues, and I was just like, I may go back to it. I do think it's really, it has that make your own beautiful town world thing that Animal Crossing has, but without the grind,
the
without
charming.
So,
oh, okay.
So charming. So if if that is something that interests you, I do think it's fun. And if you like trains, because then you make your whole town, you route the tracks, you put the tracks everywhere, you put all the bridges and tunnels and supports and the tracks that rotate and stuff, it switches. And then you can ride the train. So you can ride on your own toy train through your perfectly created town. And then you can go on the moon and you can go through a farm and there's all different themes and stuff. So it's just cute. It's cute in a nutshell, but not much of a game.
I'm thinking, I was going to say what I'm thinking of is, did your kids enjoy it though?
They really did. And I was hoping that the goal here was not for me to be like, let me play 200 hours of toy trains. The goal was like, can we play this as a family? And also, can I just hand the controller? And they could build a train set virtually for hours, as opposed to playing Mario 3D World and cry because they can't beat level 6 or whatever, so that was
Why
like
am
the goal
I laughing
there.
about children's tears right now? I should not be doing that, but I am.
That was that. So those are three games of varying levels of success and disappointment, and then just going back to Monster Hunter Rise, which I cannot say enough great things about.
Good.
But we'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's it's cool though. I kind of find it cool. Like now that I've heard you explain out the here's what I'm not playing, I kind of like that too, because in a way I feel like if I had played something that really sucked, I don't know that I would have before this. I would have been like, yeah, let me talk about what sucked. But now I'm kind of like, you know what? Like I like that. I actually like that we did that. So I think that will be coming back when I play something that I'm like not enchanted with.
Yeah. It's important. I mean, we're not professional game critics, but I think it when things work, they work, and when they don't work, I think it's worth talking about. Again, because just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean it's funny. A Katamari speedrun popped up on Games Done Quick or whatever on Twitch, like the same night or the next night or something very coincidental, and it was like, oh wow, of course, right? There's amazing people playing this really special game that I fucking hate because of these stupid control problems, so love that.
Well, perhaps I can help with that Katamari problem. I sure hope so.
Yeah. You're making me think about the gyro, so I'm gonna think about that and take a look at that. Let's get on to our last topic of the evening, which is that somewhere along the way, you said this in passing to me, to a colleague. I don't know what this was or what we were talking about, but you were like, and yeah, I play The Legend of Zelda at least once a year. Like I like to play it every year. The Legend of Zelda, the original Nintendo Entertainment System game that started it all. Gosh, I should know the year. 86?
I don't even know 87? The year. And you would think I would, but I don't.
And so I don't know, as a fan, that really stuck with me because I so rarely replay games. But you saying, I don't just replay this, or I don't just I don't just go back to it every now and again. You said, I make a point to play this singular game every calendar year. And my question is, why do you still do that? And why?
Well, the best way I can put my relationship with this game into words is that the gamer I am today was, I would say that game engraved in me like the base network for the gamer I am today.
Yep.
Why? What about it? Like, is it mechanics? I'll be honest with you, I don't know what it is. I've never tried to analyze what it is about the game that I love. And I think this is what I'm about to get to about is that I don't think it's really about the game. I think I mean, obviously a historic game, but I think that this game that is people's, if people have comfort games, this is mine. And scratching, it's not even an itch. That's not even the right. I kind of equate playing The Legend of Zelda to like having a really lovely cup of tea.
Okay.
For me, it's a soothing mechanism. It reminds me of being a child. It reminds me of the magic of discovering games, because even though I played some games before that, I don't think a game ever clicked with me that I was just absolutely enraptured from beginning to end with the
riveting,
game.
riveting,
Could not
truly.
put it down. Was so fascinated by what I might find, where I might find the next dungeon, what I might find there. You know, I mean, obviously a super rudimentary time for games, but I mean, I've never experienced anything like this. You know, I'm 9, I think, when I played it, or 8, pretty young. And, you know, the music is beautiful. It obviously it's very simple now, but to me, it's still very beautiful music. And I think when I play it and when I boot it up or however I play it, and I just see that screen, you know, it's also in addition to being a comfort, it's almost kind of like a passage in time for me. Like when I sit down and I hear the music and I choose my character and it opens up onto that first screen on the map, I don't want to say no time has passed, but like I kind of, it's almost like time has stopped. And I just get to be in that space that was, I must assume, a great comfort for me as a child, and has really remained that for me, you know. But I mean, there have been other games that I've gotten a lot of comfort and happiness out of, but I don't really replay them the way I replay that particular Zelda. And I don't know if it's because, you know, to replay Final Fantasy VII is going to take me a lot longer. So.
Well, yeah, that's the thing I was wondering about. Is I always view it as a long game, but I think that's mostly because if you don't know exactly where to go and which bush to burn at every given screen, you're wandering around and it takes a long time. But if you know everything, then
I know where everything is.
You can blast through it. And how long does it take typically? Is it a couple hours?
It's a couple hours. Yeah, it doesn't take that long. But I mean, so
maybe,
know. Yeah, so that's, but let me say one thing though. I don't always finish it when I play it every year.
Sure,
Sometimes I'm just like, I just kind of want to do this, you know, and like, it doesn't take a lot of time away from me, but yeah, it is. I think the best way for me to put it is kind of like falling into like a hole in time. I don't know if I feel like a happy kid when I play it, but I might. I'll probably have to like check in with myself and see, like, you know, is this something that's kind of like making my inner child smile and be happy? Maybe.
And that's as good a reason as any. So I have 2 quick thoughts, points, questions that I think you will appreciate and probably build on here. One is, it is 86. I looked it up.
Oh, nice.
And good Lord, you said a rudimentary time for games, an early time for games, and it was.
Absolutely.
And yet, an open world, non-linear adventure game in 1986, when the other games of its time were, can this pixel spaceship shoot invaders? Right. You know what? It is, to say it's revolutionary is just the understatement of the universe. And play it today, and my God, it's still great. I mean, you could argue it's, you know, that the locations, finding things is obtuse. Like there are no breadcrumbs. There's no signposting. It's just like,
I used to literally walk through entire screens and burn every bush,
burn everything, bomb everything, which is, you know, hey, maybe that doesn't hold up to modern standards,
like,
but it was fun.
Something you're like, oh my God. Like I used to be so excited, you know, like about uncovering something. So maybe it also has kind of like a joy to it, you know, even though I know where things is. I think it's somewhere between a comfort and a joy.
My other thought, or the thing I think about a lot, and you reminded me of it when you talk about time stopping and nostalgia and being a child again. I think one of the reasons that games are so nostalgic for so many people, and one of the core reasons why I gravitate toward game worlds as my nostalgia place, as opposed to television, books, whatever, is that we spend 100 hours in a video game place, and that is powerful. It can be more powerful. There's nothing more nostalgic than that. Perhaps the only other thing is like your childhood room or the house you grew up in.
Mhm.
Where else do you spend that many hours in a place? You can watch a show, but that's 30 minutes at a time. You can read a book, and that's a lot of time spent in a world. But I don't know, games, rich games with inner lives, games with characters and people and monsters and whatever, the games that are tactile, where you can feel and hear, and like you said, like that opening music of The Legend of Zelda and that first screen is like, that's a place in the universe that you have spent so much time, and you can go back to it whenever you want.
That, I think, is the piece of it for me too. And I'm so glad you put it that way, because it really helped me to kind of like crystallize that it's a place that I get to go. And furthermore, I think perhaps it was a place that I got to go that offered comfort, because without going into great detail, I did not have a picture perfect childhood, and really who did? But I think it offered a place of refuge. And I've often written in the past, when I've written about games, that I do think that it's interesting that games get so much flack for being an escape, but they rarely get a lot of accolades for being a refuge, which I think they often can be for many, many countless people. And it's interesting that like no one gets shit for reading books or watching movies, which also can be refuges, honestly, in my opinion. But like games are considered somehow like, or have been in the past, considered different.
Yeah. And even in our modern age, like that screens are bad, but books are good. And it's like,
right.
Well,
it's very narrow. It's very black and white.
If you're reading, I don't know, a pamphlet from, a hate group or something, then that you shouldn't read that. That's a bad book. That's bad content. But if you're reading, I don't know, great literature, then okay, great. If you're playing a shitty game that is like, some shitty mobile game that exists to addict you or addict a kid and either suck away their attention or get them to spend money, then that game, that screen's purpose is a negative one. But if that screen is communicating inclusivity or an escape or a refuge, as you said, then there is nothing more important in that moment for a person, a kid, whatever. So yeah, it's this relativity of media is very important to me, and I agree with you. I hate the demonization of games or screens or whatever, because they are new. They are new things. We said the same things about rock and roll and
exactly. And I think there might be a time when maybe I'm old where like we look back at the one stigma against gaming, and it will feel a lot like what the stigma was like against rock and roll. So we'll see.
Without a doubt. I
hope I can sit in a rocking chair on my porch and be like, when I was young, video games were the devil, like, or whatever, and people can be like, what?
Right. Well, like you were saying about diversity too, our kids will live in a world where that is no big thing.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing to think about.
Look at what's happening with media and movies, where it's like, we talked a little bit about this. You're showing your kids media from a different time, and oopsie daisies, Peter Pan, this beloved childhood classic, super racist. And wow, my kids are looking at this. Turn it off. It's bad.
Yeah.
They modern media hopefully is overcoming that stuff, and it's good.
Yeah, I would agree. I think so too. Yeah, well, Disney. Disney.
But like, I don't know. Have you seen Raya and the Last Dragon, and Moana before that? Like, these are
They've improved significantly.
So great.
I mean, they I think this is fair, right? It's like, you always have these kind of hate parades of people that are like, oh my God, they did this. And, and it's like, you really need to give more consideration to the eras that these things came to play. And should it be forgiven, or like, should it be like, oh, it's okay? Well, maybe not. But I mean, I don't think that, I think people don't really give enough credit to the eras these things were born in, probably because they weren't alive in those eras in the first place.
Sure. And credit or contextualization is what it's all about, I think. And the streaming platforms, at least, are putting those disclaimers. They're saying, hey, this was made in a different time.
Yep.
We as a company regret the depictions of certain groups and classes.
And that's enough for me. I'll be honest. It's enough for me. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
I agree. Yep. Well, thanks for sharing about Legend of Zelda. Just even talking about it, just you even saying, oh, the music from the opening screen. It's now in my soul. Like, I can feel it. And I'd
be interested to hear if there's anything that you replay, and you don't have to get into it tonight, but like, if there's anything that you replay, even if it's not yearly, that like has a similar experience for you.
I'm trying to think. Final Fantasy VI was not a yearly religious thing, but it was the one game that I would go back and emulate. And again, so much of my life is now through the lens of children. So like, sharing Chrono Trigger and sharing Final Fantasy VI and sharing the Zelda series with my daughter has been remarkably special. It's like, and she was young when we played Chrono Trigger, but like, she was probably like 5, probably 5. And it's like a story about time travel and intersecting eras of history shouldn't make sense to a 5-year-old. That's like crazy. But there she was, like, following the story and falling in love with the characters. Like, I played it on my phone because it's not available on any, portable consoles or anything. So I just emulated it. And it was a really special time. And we got, we have perler beads, that make like, there are artists on Etsy that make perler bead pixel art. So
I'm very aware.
I knew you would.
Yes.
Got all the characters. They're on the fridge. We made a video for the channel where she like recounted the whole thing. And it's one of my favorite videos that we've ever done because it's so emotional for me to see this game and then see it through her lens and her loving it too. It's just really special. And she loves Zelda. Like, we did, her first Zelda game was Skyward Sword, and then we did something else, and then Breath of the Wild came on the scene, and it was just like,
God, can you imagine that being like your intro to Zelda?
Right. The trailers came out. This was like, I guess the Switch was coming or it was out or whatever, and she was a Zelda fan by then, and now it's this next iteration coming, and we were both like, oh my God, this guy can't. And so it was special. It was special to play that with her. So yeah, I don't know.
I love that. I love that a lot. And I thanks for sharing it, because since I don't have kids, I can only imagine what that's like. But like, I do have I would call her an honorary godchild, and yeah, even her experiencing anything has been such a thrill to me. But I feel like that would have to be one of the most special experiences to have as a gamer, to introduce something really beloved to your child and see them enjoy it in their own way.
It is. And then to conclude, the flip side of that is like, hey, remember? He was watching a speed run of maybe it was Final Fantasy VI, or one of the games came on, and she's like, "What's this game?" And I was like, "Oh, there's Final Fantasy VI." Like, we played that together. She's like, "We did?" And it's just like, whoop, etch a sketch, brain wiped, no memory of it. Like that special time that we had, no clue. It's just because they're young. She was young when we did it, and
Man,
it's gone forever. And it's like, okay, goodbye. And this is another, we can get into this another time, or it's not super relevant to this discussion. But like, I make video, and I really cherish it because it becomes your memory.
Yes.
For better or worse, but I think mostly for better, because I have captured her reactions and discussions of things that matter to us. And when they disappear from your memory, you can then go back. And photos are obviously the same, but there's something about audio visual recordings that's like, the kids' memories of their birthdays are the videos. They don't actually remember their third birthday. They remember the video footage of their third birthday. And
exactly.
I say, like, I'm grateful that I took that we as family, my wife and I, took the time to make that video, take those photographs, because they would be gone. We would never remember
they
that
will
stuff.
And it'll make such a big difference. So I really admire that, and have always admired all of the free dad videos projects. So
I appreciate that. All right, we're gonna get out of here, but before we do, what are you streaming? What's coming up? Lettering?
Tomorrow
Silent
night,
Hill, or no?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Tomorrow night is actually a beginner's introduction to lettering, which I've been doing kind of periodically, like once a month, usually by request. People seem to find their way to my stream, be like, oh, I've always wanted to learn how to do this, but didn't know where to begin, or I have a terrible handwriting, and I'm like, that doesn't matter. So it'll be fun for me to do that tomorrow night. And then Sunday, I am getting back to Silent Hill. And I have to say that the conversation around Silent Hill 2 and all its themes, the ongoing conversation as I've played through it, has been just really great. I've super enjoyed it. And it's just got me thinking a lot about the story and the subject matter and all the interlacing details. So I'm enjoying it. But yeah, that's still ongoing right now for me. So yeah.
Twitch.tv/HelloCocoB.
That's right.
And get your Cocoa Crates when you subscribe.
Yes. What did I say? $7.46 or something.
Looking forward to seeing more streams, and thank you again to everyone who has come on board with us. We want you to be part of this conversation. We're chatting every week together, and hopefully you're enjoying that. But truly, it could be as simple as, what are you playing now? What do you want to play? What do you hate playing? But also, like, hey, what are your gaming traditions? Do you have a game, childhood retro, or hey, from last year, that is worth revisiting? Is it worth going back into that world for hashtag reasons? Is it nostalgia? Is it comfort?
I'd love to hear that.
Or is it like, okay, one playthrough of this amazing game is not enough, because games are dynamic media and they require multiple experiences, multiple endings, multiple secrets. Please tell us so we can discuss it here. Just tell us what it is, or explain it in detail, whatever you want. Please email us, haveenteredthechat@gmail.com. You can also get that email address in the show notes, so no need to write it down or remember it. Our theme music is by Azure Flux. Our logo is illustrated by Just Call Me Katarina from Instagram. And if you enjoyed the show, give us a rating or review on your podcast platform of choice. We do check most of them as often as possible. And if you write something fun to us or give us a rating, good or bad, we'll read it on the show. Almost guaranteed. So do that. It helps other listeners discover the show. And thanks again for listening. And
thanks, everybody.
We'll chat with you next week.